Times change. The marketing landscape changes. One thing that's been solid as a rock for decades is email. For scaling brands, we find that 65% of revenue in Klaviyo comes from buyers. And on a 7-day last click, we find that customer retention is 10 times more cost-effective than ads. Conversion rate optimization is even more cost-effective. Translation: if you aren't doing email, SMS, and CRO, you're spinning your wheels on new customers and spending way too much to drive revenue. Unfortunately, with the growth of e-commerce and the onslaught of email, Gmail and Yahoo are making it harder than ever to reach the inbox. The cheapest customer is the customer you already have, so if you need help with this mess, come to pallethouse.co, fill out the lead form, and ask to speak to me directly.
In the inbox late night, glowing screens see the light. Email, everything feels alright.
Double your revenue with no ad cost. That is why you would want to start using these funnels. Everybody should be doing this. Every big company I ever worked for is doing something like what we're describing at all times, vigorously. That's what pays the bills. I'm going to walk you through 12 digital assets to funnel manage 5 million products. If that doesn't get you just like hot and bothered, what are you doing in e-commerce? It's the world's best email and retention podcast, and I'm your host, Jordan Gordon. We are a member of the DTC network of podcasts and the philosophical home of the Pallet House email and customer retention team. If you want to make the sweet nectar of low-cost revenue a large part of your digital ecosystem, then follow us on your favorite podcast app today. So I just got back from jiu-jitsu, and I was like rolling around in a Darce choke, just thinking to myself, man, I recorded that podcast episode wrong. You know, like I just kind of did everything wrong. And what a thing to think about, while you're choking someone out and then being choked out. So I got back and just, I'm going to do the podcast episode again, right? So I apologize if I'm maybe not my normal self. I'm exhausted, but I've got a fire for e-commerce. This episode, we are going to do the follow-up to the recent episode, probably the last one by the time you heard this, where we did funnels for optimizing a website and just boiling things down to their simplest and purest format so I can convey them to my beloved audience out in audience land, so that you can see the kernel of truth, the deep truth in whatever the topic is, this time optimizing, and then take that to your own digital ecosystem and apply it. The last episode on this little two-part series was for e-commerce sites with, let's just call it a manageable SKU size. And that would mean like your SKU count is low enough that it would make sense to market individual products. Of course, think about, the exact polar opposite of this is like Amazon, where no one's like, hey, let's do a feature on this one shoe out of our millions of products that we have. And I worked at an e-commerce company that had 175 million listings. It was the largest Oracle database by row count in the world at one point in time. So that was all before the cloud. And so I bring to this episode what you do if you don't have a manageable SKU count. If you are one of these, we'll call them mega-SKU businesses. So last episode was manageable SKU, and this episode was mega-SKU, where there's no way you're going to feature individual products. When we watched that last episode, clearly we're like, well, are we going to feature the top product or the top category page? Yeah. What if you got 5 million listings, right? So we will discuss 2 funnels here. Now, last time, on the last one, there were 5 funnels. Funnel 1, 2, and 3. And then funnel 4 and 5 were just like a variation of funnel 1 and 2. So really it was 3 funnels, right? You're aware, you're unaware, and then drive the lane, funnel 3, which was just PDP funnel. Now, of course, that funnel 3 exists here too. Of course, getting from a PDP into the cart, that's everywhere, right? And if you were one of these mega SKU businesses, you probably have dynamic PDPs. And so you'd be able to get a lot of a benefit out of out of macro level optimizing that dynamic PDP. So that certainly exists here, funnel 3. Now, funnel 1 and 2 here, I mean, if you go back and look at episode, I don't know if it was 23 or 26, when I talk about discovery, that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about product discovery. Product discovery is the name of the game when you've got a SKU count, a catalog that big. And like always, in every place, when you go back and look at that, I think it was episode 23, it's like we talk about generate intent, convert intent. That's like low intent, high intent. Unaware, aware. Everywhere that we do that, I mean, this podcast is a strategic podcast. We're not, it's not like day-to-day tactics. That's not what we're doing. You can find that stuff. You can find, 13 spooky Halloween subject lines somewhere else, right? So this is strategic. And so everywhere in e-commerce, not just post-click, we're talking post-click here, but everywhere, you're gonna see this pass the baton from low qualified traffic to high qualified traffic, less qualified to more qualified, right? Low intent, high intent. And everything we can one of the first things we do is split by that. And what do I tell you to do with segmentation, right? The first thing you do, split by prospect and buyer. This is the high volume, low quality, low volume, high quality, or high volume, low qualified, low volume, high qualified. This is the first thing that we're doing and we're thinking about. And funnel 1 and 2, that's what we were doing in the last one. And it was above the fold, for instance, was, page to PDP, below the fold, homepage to category page to any PDP, right? And you got your high qualified, your low qualified, individual product or unaware for individual product for aware landing page to individual PDP, and category page, which is many products, to unaware PDP, right? Okay, that's the split. We're doing the same thing on this split, but we're going to split on depth into the funnel, right? And on this one, we're going to integrate email. Reason being, I could not imagine optimizing a mega SKU business without email. And I'll tell you why in a second. Okay. So we're splitting it up by, let's just say, low intent and high intent, but really the low intent would work on any intent. So it's just more like, it's not campaign, but think campaign. Anybody could receive it. Anybody, anywhere in the life cycle could receive it, or the purchase funnel. And then we got funnel 2, which is going to be high intent. They made it into your purchase funnel. And that's how we're splitting it up. Whereas in the last one, it was like, where on the homepage and what are we doing on the homepage? Okay, why would I be totally unable to even imagine optimizing a mega SKU business? And mega SKU doesn't even be 5 million SKUs. Look, if you're out there and we have a client that sold like 2,000 SKUs in 30 days. Okay, to me, that's mega SKU. Like, you're not going to pick one of those products and be like, let's do a big landing page on this product. It wouldn't make any sense, because that business is making money on the long tail. If you're not sure what the long tail is, go look at the book, The Long Tail. It's from like early 2000s or something like that, about businesses that have a lot of SKUs. Back in the day, when I got involved in e-commerce, there were lots of these kind of listing services. Obviously think eBay, but it took a lot of infrastructure to make an e-commerce site back in the day. You have huge teams of developers. There'd just be like floors of developers. And now it's all vertically integrated, Klaviyo over Shopify. You no longer need a floor of developers, right? If you've got one dev for cutting tickets, you can get a whole lot of e-commerce done. It's been amazing to see that happen over my career. So there were a lot more of these businesses back in the day that had, they'd be aggregating multiple brands through one listing service and be selling, like I say, thousands of different SKUs a month. No one's going to go in and feature one of those because they're making money in the long tail. They're making money by selling a small number of a whole lot of SKUs, which you cannot individually merchandise. There's no one at Amazon saying, let's do a feature on this one shoe. So if it's mega SKU, then obviously we're using dynamic merchandising to get people in front of the products they want. We've talked about this plenty. And when it comes to mega SKU dynamic merchandising, here's the thing. Super numbers game. You need a lot of at-bats to get the right product in front of that user, right? I mean, let's say we're treating an email as a shoppable landing page and putting a dynamic 2x2 block in it, which I often recommend. I mean, you can do a 2x3, but I like a 2x2 because all 4 products appear on one screen. Well, look, that's 4 products out of your, you've got thousands and thousands of SKUs. Well, there's 4 products, right? Okay, what are the chances those 4 are the ones? I mean, there's a better chance if you got some good machine learning, and machine learning is always getting better, but the more SKUs you have, the lower the chance that at bat shows them the product that they want right now. More SKUs, more at bats required. So listen to this. Here's just 3 brands that I've been working with that their data was right there, so I pulled them. So listen, first brand, 11.2 million unique opens in the last 12 months. And then I just cut that in half to get rid of Apple privacy opens, which are fake. Why do I pick half? Well, a good open rate used to be 20 to 30%. Now a good open rate is 40 to 60%. Obviously, half of opens are fake. Done. So 11.2 and half, 5.6 million unique opens. Okay. So 2.3 million sessions they had. 5.6 million unique opens, 2.3 Shopify sessions. So more than twice as many unique opens than sessions. So if you're serving a lot of dynamic merchandising to that list, you triple your at-bats with the dynamic merchandising by integrating email into it. Whoa! Triple the at-bats with no advertising cost. So, oh wow, the power of email. I mean, this is the world's best email retention podcast, but that should drive something home. And look, the last one, we didn't integrate email. We just did purely on-site. But obviously, if you put your little thinking cap on, you're going to think about, when listening to this episode, how to integrate this into the last one, which was, pure on-site funnels, to extend your funnels into email. Because, of course, an email is just an HTML page that loads in an SMTP client rather than an HTTP client. It's just a web page, right? Shoppable landing page. Any high-intent email should be a shoppable landing page. Next brand. This is big. 119 million unique opens in the last 12 months. It's big. Cut them in half. 60 million. And 32 million sessions. So twice as many unique opens to sessions. They triple their at-bats if they're doing a dynamic. If every one of those messages was dynamic merchandising, of course not everyone is, but if every single one was dynamic merchandising, they would triple their at-bats. 7.5 million on the next brand, 7.5 million unique opens, cut it in half, 3.375 million, and 2.2 million sessions. So almost, not quite, but almost twice as many unique opens as sessions. So if you were a mega-SKU brand, like we have here that we're talking about, and you fit that profile, and you were focusing on dynamic merchandising with your assets, you would triple your at-bats, triple the product discovery opportunities because you've got so many more impressions on your assets, so many more views. That's why I would never think about this without email, right? Because this funnel discussion is all about product discovery. Now, I was just auditing a brand and they were a manageable number of SKUs. Okay. And so their homepage was this. It was like, it was Black Friday, right? And it was a nice little Black Friday video. Just forget that. It's seasonal. But then here's all of our categories, self-selected category with a little picture of the category. And then it was a specific category that you might be into. And then it was best-selling products. And they were a manageable number of SKUs. And they did have a hero product that was doing a lot of business. So like my call there is, why aren't we flipping that on its head? Why are we not starting with the best-selling product? Because we know this thing drives a lot of business. And, have a beautiful video, of someone using the product. We won't get into what the product was, but using the product, right? Because the product was itself a very good solution. The self-selecting categories are currently at the top, which is product discovery based. You're not going into the beautiful solution. Start with the product, show the beautiful solution. If that didn't work, you could go to a hero category. It's exactly what we just discussed in the last episode, hero category. And then finally end off with all the different categories and focus on discovery. because they got a manageable number of SKUs. Discovery isn't the name of the game. Again, this one, discovery is the name of the game because there's too many SKUs. Okay? All right. So here's funnel 1. 6 assets. Both of these funnels are going to be 6 assets. Now, of course, you can add more emails after the initial email and make a little flow and have more emails. But first, you just do the one email in each spot, right, to prove out that touch point before you add more emails behind it. But we are talking about 6 assets in funnel 1 and 6 assets in funnel 2. And here's the important point. Think about Amazon. You get recommendations emails from Amazon all the time. Is each one of those an individual different email? No, it's the exact same template with new products loaded into it. So there are a constrained number of the email product manager at Amazon. I'll tell you, because I was an email product manager for Amazon after we exited to Amazon. It's a constrained number of assets. There's less technical debt. You got to manage less stuff. So we're thinking right here, how could we do this 5 million asset brand with 12 assets? I'm going to walk you through 12 digital assets to funnel manage 5 million products. If that doesn't get you just like hot and bothered, what are you doing in e-commerce? You know what I mean? Especially if you're post-click, right? So let's look at funnel 1. First email, bestsellers. Second email, new to site. Third email, trending. Fourth email, people like you bought this too. Fifth email, based on your history, we recommend. These are 5. So the last 2 are actually people like you bought and based on your history are actually both recommendations, right? They're just different angles and recommendations. We've talked about these 4 all the time, but when it comes to the actual customer message, you can get 2 customer messages out of recommendation types. So that's 5 different emails, all leading to one page on the website. And it is an all products category page, like shop, like your shop page. You could do this with your shop page, although you might actually make a different category page with all products, especially if you were just piloting this. You wouldn't necessarily want to screw with your shop page while you were piloting this. But one category page with all categories and dynamic sort so that the sorting shows recommendations that are appropriate for that user based on their browse and search history. You can link rebuy and Klaviyo recommendations, so it's the exact same recommendation set, but you don't need to. You don't need to, right? Especially if you're like mega-SKU, it's kind of interesting to have a totally new at-bat. So the bestsellers, new to site, trending, people like you also bought and based on your purchase history, those have dynamic products that lead to the PDP, right? They lead into funnel 3. But if someone doesn't engage with those, say if you did a 2x2, then you send them to the all products category page and it's a new at-bat. So you can show all new recommendations. I mean, if the last recommendations didn't work, why would you just show the same products there, right? So you don't need necessarily to link up the Klaviyo and rebuy recommendations. So that is 6 assets and it is a many to one. Let's keep that in mind. This is a many to one, right? And the nice thing here is, okay, well, we got 5 emails there and we got 5 different data feeds. So you want to optimize those data feeds, include the, what should we pull out of here? What should we add into here? Timeframes, that kind of thing, whether it's only based on browse, purchase, whatever, you're just optimizing the data feeds. You also, hey, what additional information are you putting on those emails? Look, is it got a hero? Do we show the product right away? Is it got like a thin hero, like a banner? Are we what kind of secondary, marketing messages do we have? Are we talking about manufacturing, materials? Is it, vistas and just brand promise and, beautiful imagery? How else are we appealing to them in addition to the value in the dynamic merchandising? Now, I say 6 here, 6 assets. Of course, like I say, eventually you might like to have more than one trending email. Trending, of course, is like what's hot right now. It's what you just put on sale or what you just launched, right? Okay, well, these emails, this funnel 1 is all intent. So a lot of low intent people get it. So it acts kind of like a campaign, right? So you're going to have some really broad content to capture people's interest. If they don't like the dynamic merchandising, they're going to have to, have this. These ones have a lot of brand focus. You might lead to blog, etc. Right? And well, what if someone's getting this thing and they're getting every time they get the email, they're getting new recommendations, but it's like, why is it always the same blog post? So eventually you would iterate on these and have a few. You'd have a few, right, in a little flow with plenty of space in between and, some more fresh content further down the page. But for starters, we just do the 6. This is actually a 12 asset model, 6 asset, 6 asset. You could do, that massive 5 million SKU business with these 12 assets. And of course, if you invested enough, you would dynamically load your blog post too. Of course, that's possible. Right? So you could, if you did that, if you dynamically loaded that, and we do a lot of kind of Klaviyo, Shopify, simple stuff here, right, on this pod, but of course you can do that. And just with a little bit of extra effort and some elbow grease. And that's how you'd really use just 12 assets to service all 5 million SKUs. And of course, how are you going to serve these? You're not going to just have these, someone just gets one of these messages and that's it. You're going to take these messages and you're going to spread them liberally throughout your life cycle, conversion funnel, support, just all through your email-based digital ecosystem. You're going to sprinkle these messages in there and not worry if someone gets it before pre-purchase, post-purchase, recent, stale. Just take these messages and put them in there. You're like, oh, look, new to site, right? Hey, what's new? What's new on the site? Another important point, if you do more than one of each of these in your own Klaviyo, you can go in and screw around with the settings so that on the second new to site email that goes out, it doesn't, you set it. So you set the settings so it will not include the new to site that was in email 1. You can do that in the settings. So you could do 3 of these and make sure that they didn't get the same 3 recommendations on 3 different emails, right? So that's obviously the end point. All right. So what are you going to do? You're going to optimize once you have these 6 set up, that's easy. Setting these 6 up is simple, right? The art is in optimizing them, right? So setting up iterative tests on all 6 of these assets. I mean, if you're going to use these 12 assets as the kind of 2 main funnels for a 5 million SKU business, you're going to be testing the living daylights out of these assets, right? Headlines, buttons, right? Sort order on the category page, how the category page is designed, right? And then as people get these more and more, every time they get one of these emails, it's got something new for them. Every time they land on the category page, it's showing something new for them. You can push them through product discovery on 6 assets. Okay, super hot, right? Super hot. Let's look at the second funnel. So as I'd said, notice the last one was 6 assets, many to 1. All right, this is 6 assets, 1 to 1. So rather than 5 different emails all leading to one category page, we've got one email leading to one category page, another email leading to another category page, a third email leading to a third category page. All right. So first of all, when would you do this? Okay. I mean, maybe on the 5 million SKU business, you actually wouldn't do this. You just actually build out and expand on the last funnel. Depends. But if that 5 million SKU business did have a hero category, right? Or a few hero categories that there was a lot of business going through, then you would do this. And essentially, anytime that there's a Pareto distribution where even though there's tons and tons and tons of SKUs, there are a few categories that it could make sense to focus on if someone had shown intent in that category and drive them through a more curated experience. Now, what you want to figure out is you want to launch this and test it against the last funnel 1, to prove to yourself, I can actually get, for instance, more traffic. I can get more people into funnel 3 by adding funnel 2 than by just pumping up funnel 1. So we need to prove to ourselves, hey, funnel 2 actually holds its own standalone and is complementary to funnel 1 And then when you've proven that, well, then you can build on funnel 2. Okay, let's talk about funnel 2. Okay, I'll just read this out. You got your top recent browse category 1, recommendations. It leads to site, recent browse category 1, dynamic sort. So someone browses category 1 and you send out a recommendations email for category 1. And of course, if they click on the recommendations, they go to the PDP into funnel 3. And if they don't, they go to the same category on the site, a category page with the dynamic sort showing them more recommendations. And email 2, it's the same thing. They browse to category, then they get a recommendations email for that category. If they click the recommendations, they're in funnel 3. Otherwise, they're on the category dynamic sort, right? And the third email, the exact same thing. 6 assets, right? But now it's 3 separate little streams rather than 1 with 5 different entry points. Okay, in the weeds a little bit, technically, you could have 2 versions of the email. One that triggers if someone lands on the category page using the category, I think it's called collection view in Klaviyo, but whatever, the category or collection, I always forget which one's which. But they viewed that collection or catalog category. And then the second one is, well, they viewed that category, but they actually got to a product and they viewed a product. And what's the difference? Well, in one, you can show the product they recently viewed, and below that show recommendations. That's the product view trigger. And if they didn't get to a product view and they just got to the category, well, then you're just going to show the recommendations. And so while it is technically 2 different emails, the simplest build is 2 separate templates. You're just pulling one of the sections out. You're just pulling the recently viewed product, right? You pull that section out. And of course, if you get really into it and get, techie, you can use the exact same template and have logic that dynamically loads or does not load the recent product section based on whether or not there was a product view. So of course, the proper way to do it is to keep it as just 6 assets and use logic to insert the recent product above the recommendations if they were recently on a product. Now, if you do that, you can't get as creative with the subject line, right? I mean, if they've been on the product, you can add the product to the subject line. For instance, that's not something you do if it's used for both category and product. So you don't have as much flexibility if it's 1 asset, but we're talking about, hey, could we use 12 assets to basically do the funnel optimization for a 5 million SKU business? Yeah, you can. And what you're going to do is each asset can have lots and lots and lots of logic. And then when you test that asset, you roll in the fix, and all the different places that asset is get the benefit. So when we talked about the last one, we talked about those 5 different emails. You're going to repeat those emails all through your life cycle. You test it once, you roll in the improvement, because it's all like kind of dynamic blocks. It's all that load in, so you make the change once and it changes every single version, right? So you test it, you make the change once, all of the different versions of that email are updated and you get all of the benefit. That's why you'd want to use just 12, just 6 and 6, right? 6 in a many-to-one and 6 in a one-to-one. And also, of course, in the weeds, once this is built and it's all really good, you can add some more. And that's so let's talk about how you might do that or why you might do that in this one. I would be more into having like a little 3 email flow on this one than the last one. And here's why. This one is technically further down the purchase funnel than the last one. The last one could go to someone who's shown intent or who has not shown intent. Since this one was actually someone who reached category or lower, this definitely involves a site visit. This is basically a browse abandon, right? And so they interacted with that category. You can start talking about that category, how it was manufactured, how amazing the materials are, kind of category-specific value propositions, etc. And, you could put together specific categories based on kind of persona, so you're speaking to a certain kind of persona because they clicked on that category, which had all kinds of different products in it. So then, since you have this specific knowledge about what they're interested in, you could speak to them over a few messages. So that's how you might extend this beyond just 6 messages, funnel 1, and 6 messages, funnel 2. But look, you then lose a bit of that. It becomes a little bit harder to optimize because you got more assets. So first, again, set up just the 6 and then the 6. Now, earlier I had said, it's devilishly simple. 12 assets, right? You must be at home thinking, oh my God, can we really do the funnel optimization for 5 million SKUs of 12 assets? Yes. Of course there's going to be more emails. You're going to have a welcome flow, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the product discovery because 5 million assets is all about discovery. So to learn if funnel 2 works and is additive, what we want to know is, so funnel 2 goes to people who've shown intent. What we want to know is, does funnel 2 outperform funnel 1 to people who have shown intent? And that actually means you need to have funnel 1 as well for people who have shown intent, which means you're going to need to take that funnel and clone it a bit, So yeah, basically I would say just clone the whole thing. Clone the category page, clone the messages, and you have to have a completely separate flow, a separate page. That's the cleanest way to do it. But if you wanted to, if you didn't want the extra assets, you could find a way to not just clone the whole thing. But look, it's 6 assets. That's the amazing thing about this. Clone the whole thing, right? And do all your kind of rules, all your entry rules, so that people who get funnel 2, the exact same people get funnel 1. And the simplest way to do this is, look, everybody whose email address does not start with A through E gets funnel 2, right? And then as a B version to just check it against, you have that, take that cloned funnel 1, and only people whose email addresses start with A through E get funnel 1. And what you're going to get is about an 80-20. So 80% of the people get your funnel 2 that you've built, but 20%, they don't get that funnel 2. They get the version of funnel 1 that's only going to high intent addresses. And so this is a little bit involved, but come on, guys, we're talking about 12 assets to manage funnel for 5 million SKUs. And this is, if you had that business, yeah, you would be testing the heck out of these assets. So is it too much to ask to clone the whole thing? No, it is not. You're going to be doing that all the time. That's the job. That's the job, right? If you've got this huge catalog like that, the job is getting it down to the smallest number of assets and making those assets as high quality as possible. So that means when someone enters funnel 2, a fifth of them shoot off to the funnel 1 version, and then you can look and say, look, do the people who go through funnel 2, is this performing better than the same group that goes to funnel 1? And if they're not, that means you drop funnel 2 and you just focus all on funnel 1, which is it's just like no hierarchy, right? We are just getting recommendations in front of people and inserting these touch points whenever we can in the life cycle, and having these touch points lead to this one category page that has dynamic sort, right? If funnel 2 can outperform, well then, look, of course, what are you going to do first? First, you're going to do category 1, the biggest category. Just obviously the category with the biggest revenue. And you're going to see, can we optimize that category and make more? If we can, okay, fine. We'll do category 2 and we'll make this. And then we'll do category 3 and we'll make this. And you go to the point where there's no more squeeze, right? Where you're like, you know what? It has to outperform funnel 1, but it also has to outperform funnel 1 with interest, meaning that it outperforms enough to overcome the technical debt of needing to manage more than one funnel. Because of course, like if it makes an extra penny a year, but you've got more digital assets to manage, more everything to manage. Oh my God, our logo changed, all that stuff, right? You don't, we got to change the T's and C's. Oh, but we hard coded the T's and C's. Oh no, we got to go in and update those manually. You don't want that, right? So the little kind of mini funnel here, the category portion of funnel 2 that you do has to outperform funnel 1 with interest. It has to be a decent outperformance. Otherwise, you just run funnel 1. And then once you know which categories it's worth doing this for, then you extend it and you make it a bit more of a journey, right? And look, you've already got a browse abandon, I'm sure. So what do? This is like you space this one out more because it's about discovery. And so, yeah, you know what? Maybe someone in the first week when you're doing your browse abandon, they didn't get back in, they didn't buy what they were going to buy. Okay, now we're going to send them some recommendations along the same category and take a second pass when maybe they've, whatever they were busy doing, they're not busy doing that anymore, right? And also, they're going to be getting funnel 1 emails. And you're going to put your little thinking cap on, and you're going to find the right moments and cadence and blah, blah, blah to get them their funnel 1 emails. By the way, this is our specialty. If any of this stuff is sounding sexy to you, you just come to pallethouse.co, fill out the lead form, ask to talk to me. And we do this morning, noon, and night. So we'll just set this stuff up for you. We know exactly when and where to be letting people know about exciting products that are relevant for them based on their shopping history or other customers like them. Yeah, look, I think that's it. So what do we have here? Funnel 1 and funnel 2. And then they lead to funnel 3. And what about funnel 4 and 5 from last episode? Individual landing page. I'm sure you're going to have some individual landing pages for the business. And so, you can have those landing pages lead to the category pages that are worth marketing to and to the main category page. And that would be, if you had some advertising that, for whatever reason, the advertising is focusing on one specific product. Of course, advertising is not, in my mind, it's not about driving revenue, it's about driving awareness. It's about introducing people to your brand. So you're introducing people to your brand. You happen to be talking about a product or category. We're no longer in the realm of discovery. We're in the realm of brand awareness. So in that case, yeah, it makes sense to drive them to the thing you're talking about because it's a launch or whatever it is, because, you want to send them to whatever they're kind of investigating or whatever they're looking at. So in those cases, look, if it was just some totally different category, you just drive them to that category, or you can drive them to the funnel 1 category page. So yes, just like the last one, funnel 4 and funnel 5 exist, but again, they are just variations. And in this case specifically, in the first one we did last time, it was homepage and 2 different parts of homepage leading into the 2 funnels, and then we replaced with landing page leading into the second step of the 2 funnels, PDP and category. And in this case, it's emails. Funnel 1 and 2 are emails that lead to the second stage of the funnel, which is a category page. And then rather than emails, we'll do a landing page. Socials, paid media goes to a landing page, and the landing page leads into the category page, which is the second stage of the funnel. So there you go. Funnel 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 for 2 different businesses, a manageable SKU count business and a mega SKU count business. These are the models you would use to improve the performance of the site. Look, are there other things? Like, we didn't discuss this here, but what about all that other stuff we discussed in the last episode? The where am I? What do you want me to do? What's in it for me? And how long someone's on site? When you pop the conversion, yeah, all that stuff still applies here. Of course, you got to do all that same stuff on the site in this version as last version. But right now we're just talking about, okay, how is this version different from that version? And that's how this version's different. It's about whether or not we're focusing on marketing hero products or whether we're focusing on product discovery. And there's, of course, different techniques that get used for both. And look, final thought, guys, again, advertising is not for driving revenue. This is how you drive revenue. You want to drive low-cost revenue. You want to drive revenue that does not incur an ad cost, right? You want expensive advertising. You want to reach people who are hard to reach. You want to, if you're gonna bring new eyes to your brand, it's going to cost money. You should be expecting to pay money there, right? If you want a large group of people, if you want to grow your brand and make your brand sizable, you're going to need to go beyond the cheap customers who are already ready to purchase, the 5% that we know are already in market. You need to go beyond them, and you need to make people who are not product aware, make them product aware. To make people who are not solution aware. You can make people who are not problem aware. Move further and further and further up that funnel. And that's expensive. You want to pay for that. I mean, you want to get a good deal. You want to be efficient about it, but you want to pay for that. You don't want to pay a whole lot of money for revenue. What? No. Look, think about this. Let's say you have, I see this all the time in my audits. Oh, you've got a 0.5% conversion rate. Wow. Okay. So what do we find? I think I gave these benchmarks in a very early episode. 2%. That's what brands that are, I'd say, they've got all their stuff together, right? They got their game in gear. So the site's working well, but they're also doing reach advertising and kind of, awareness marketing. So they're also driving a lot of unqualified traffic who are just discovering the brand. And so that's two different things. Quality site, less qualified traffic, and it's evening out around 2%. Of course, some for some higher, for some lower. All right, someone shows up, they got 0.5%. That's a quarter where it's quarter of the benchmark. Look, some brands just, obviously, part of conversion rate structural. Like if you've got a super expensive product, you're probably going to just have a lower conversion rate. You know what I mean? Than a quick buy, for instance. Or you might have a lower conversion rate, or if it's a new product and you're still trying to establish brand recognition and trust, you're going to have a structurally lower conversion rate. But let's say it's 0.5%. So look, that could be 1%. It's, for sure that could be 1%. Well, if you get your conversion rate from 0.5% to 1%, you double your revenue with no ad cost. That is why you would want to start using these funnels. So check them out. Watch the episode again. Give it a good listen. Check the last episode. Think about which of these funnel models is better for you. Because this is low-cost revenue. That's the kind of revenue you want. You drive revenue this way. You drive revenue by, someone buys and you capture their email address and you nurture them and you get them buying again for years. That's low-cost revenue. That's how you drive revenue. And the advertising is just to get more people interested. The advertising is also to drive enough brand awareness to get organic traffic. Okay, well, where's the organic traffic hit? It hits your homepage. And then we go back and we do the last episode's 5 funnels. This is where you're driving revenue. So right here, I don't know how much more, I can't stress this more. Everybody should be doing this. Every big company I ever worked for is doing something like what we're describing at all times vigorously. And that's where the money, that's what pays the bills. And the advertising is what drives the whole thing, is what scales it and drives the whole thing forward. And brings new people into the great digital ecosystem that you're building with the persistent revenue ecosystem that we discussed in episode 40. So whatever episode this is, we'll be talking about this episode for a while, this episode and the last episode, because they tie in. They're part of that episode 40. Very important episode. So entrepreneurs, executives, spammers, and webmasters, until next time, have fun spamming.
In the inbox late night, glowing screens see the light. Email, everything feels alright.
Hey entrepreneurs and spammers, remember, you can't scale without email, and the cheapest customer to acquire is the customer you already have. So please subscribe to the world's best email and retention podcast and learn how to make low-cost revenue a big part of your digital ecosystem.